In the news tonight, a strong performance expected for the upcoming winter tourist season. The Agriculture Minister seeks to calm fears of an egg shortage. And cyber criminals hit two of Barbados' largest retailers. And in sports, with white popularity, West Indies cricket turns its focus on developing red ball cricketers.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom. Thank you so much for tuning in. In our top story tonight, Barbados is once again expected to deliver a strong performance this winter tourist season. The outlook from the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association came during its quarterly media briefing. Sharika Griffith was there and filed this report.
For the second straight year, bookings for the winter tourist season are looking positive as the island rebounds from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Business on the books, as reported by a significant sample of our members, is for November, 73%, December, 70%, January next year, 63%, February, 62%, March, 50%, and April, 35%. And I remind you, this is business on the books, not projections. Compared to our projections or our business on the books for the same period last year, which were November 75%, December 2022 67%, January 23 66%, February 23 72%, and March 55 and April 37 respectively. So just to compare, we were slightly ahead in some months last year, slightly behind in some months, but we're looking at, we believe, it's going to be an overall similar performance for this winter. We're expecting a strong winter.
BHTA Chairman Renee Coppin also touched on the critical matter of airlift. Overall, for 2023, Barbados is trailing behind 2019 levels by more than 176,000 seats. But the BHTA head believes the island is trending in the right direction, particularly out of the United Kingdom for the current winter season.
These increases from the UK are driven by four key factors. The first is that North Atlantic is committed to 5-time-a-week service from London Gatwick. The second, Virgin Atlantic going double daily from London Heathrow for January to March 2024. The third, a record amount of charter flights from London Gatwick, Manchester, Birmingham, and so on. And then the fourth is that British Airways is increasing Heathrow flights for April 2024.
Significant progress is also being reported in improving airlift within Latin America and the Caribbean, due in large part to a huge increase in inter-Caribbean flights. Virgin Atlantic's regional flights from Barbados, Copa from Panama, which will go to 4 flights a week from January, and also the newly introduced Cayman Airways service. The 2023-2024 cruise season has also started in earnest.
Barbados is seeing ships arriving at 100% capacity. This has the expected knock-on effect, as on busy days, the Bridgetown port, the taxi operators and retail sector all benefit. Areas such as Carlisle Bay Beach are buzz, with all the operators and establishments reporting strong sales.
According to the Central Bank of Barbados, tourism continues to be the main driver of economic growth. Tourist expenditure increased by $333.2 million from January to September when compared to the same period last year. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Well, the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association has responded publicly to what it calls an unprecedented smear campaign launched by the island's trade unions. In recent months, the Barbados Workers Union has been using its social media platforms to highlight what it says are issues raised by hotel workers. However, during the media briefing this morning, BHTA Chairman Renee Coppin described it as a worrying trend in the industrial relations environment.
Given the importance of this industry to its tens of thousands of employees and stakeholders, and to this country, we can no longer sit silent and bemused as reels featuring irresponsible content, fallacious logic, and even household pets bring our industry and the people who work in it into disrepute. We are currently in the process of collective bargaining negotiations. Our goal is to bring this to closure as soon as we can to provide our teams with their much anticipated increase, ideally before the official start of the season. There has been no breakdown in that process. Additionally, we have committed to measures outside of this bargaining process, which, while extraordinary, show our commitment to utilizing every channel to resolve the concerns of our teams within the sector.
Well, some of the concerns highlighted by the union include workers not receiving service charge, uniforms, or other key tools of the trade. When asked about these, Ms. Coppin said it was difficult to respond to general statements, but noted a lot of things floating around were out of context or completely inaccurate.
I don't know if this is a new direction that the unions are going in, but for us, it is about our people and about addressing concerns. I can't, in a public space, speak to a general complaint that sometimes is unspecified. What I can do is, if you put in writing or call or speak to us about a concern that you have, we can go to that member, because remember, we don't run these businesses. We can go to that member and we can work with that member to seek resolution, and that is what we have done in every single instance.
Potential African investors have been given insight into ongoing development work in Barbados, including planned hotel projects slated for the island. Chief Executive Officer of Invest Barbados, Kayan Greenidge, told those attending the ongoing Intra-African Trade Fair, where Barbados made a presentation, the island is ripe for investment. Business-to-business meetings were also held, and the Barbados team provided updates on projects available for investment. Ms. Greenidge says there are a number of opportunities in Barbados ready for the investor.
As Barbados looks to diversify its economy, we look to other sectors other than tourism, though we still make sure that we invest, keep our tourism product up. But we are looking at a number of other sectors out there in terms of investment. Kevin's presentation will aim to give you an insight of an overview of Barbados, how we stand in terms of certain rankings, what are our main sectors for investment, and some of our achievements and growth trajectory over the past few years and into the future.
Governor of the Central Bank of Barbados, Dr. Kevin Greenidge, says Barbados, like most countries in the world, was hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. It was also impacted by several other crises. However, according to Dr. Greenidge, Barbados was able to bounce back with great vigor.
We've had 10 quarters of strong economic growth. The economy today is larger than it was pre-COVID, both in real and nominal terms. Okay? We're open for business. The most important thing about this growth too, not only really larger, we grew for the first 9 months by 4.3%. That's on top of the 9 months last year, 17. But not only really larger, if you look at this one here, and you check just this bar here, you will see they're all above the zero line, so all sectors are growing. We are firing on all cylinders, which argues well for investment.
With shipments of eggs on the way to Barbados, Minister of Agriculture, Food and Nutritional Security Indar Ware has sought to calm fears over the availability for the festive holiday season. He says 6 containers are due on island.
One of the suppliers that provided most of the eggs had to shut down simply because of the heat. No fault of anybody's own. It's part of the climate crisis. But you will have eggs because the eggs are here, they're coming. Mr. Speaker, the same goes for poultry. I've already asked for them to ramp up. Hatching, you have a 6 to 9 weeks period. So if you ramp up your hatching, sir, and then you do your supplementation, because we know already that we have to continue to get chicken wings.
Minister Ware was contributing to debate in Parliament on the Debt, Natural Disaster and Pandemic Deferment of Payment Miscellaneous Provisions Bill 2023. It makes provisions for deferment of the payment of amortizations and interest due on debt if Barbados is hit by a natural disaster or a pandemic event under certain circumstances. Mr. Ware stressed that, like Barbados, other countries across the globe are facing issues with food production due to climate change.
I sat at a FAO conference in June, and there was a presentation by the Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore. And in his presentation, he made it absolutely clear to all in attendance and to the world that the direction the world is going in due to the climate crisis we are facing is going to make it extremely challenging for us to provide food, Mr. Speaker, because we are dealing with problems not only with droughts, but you can see with the rainfall pattern that we have now, we're getting too much rain for agriculture.
Well, the sentiment was echoed by Senior Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Kerry Simmons. He says the impact of climate change is real, noting beaches on Barbados' Platinum Coast are being impacted. Mr. Simmons says the perils small island developing states or SIDS face are real, and he cited the Pacific nation of Tuvalu as an example of a country that is disappearing.
It only has 11,000 inhabitants, small island. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is sinking, disappearing under the water of rising tides. And Mr. Speaker, as recently as last week or week before, the Australian government had to commit itself to bringing I think it is 300 or 400 people every year to be brought from Tuvalu into Australia so as to provide them with citizenship opportunities and commercial opportunities and employment opportunities, sir, and allowing Australia to cope with the migration in a managed way.
Minister of the Environment and National Beautification, Adrian Ford, also signaled his support for debt deferment legislation.
Once we are able to defer and save out, we will defer our payments for 2 years, for example. Mr. Speaker, it gives us that breathing room. It gives us that leg room, that ability for us to extend ourselves, breathe, and be able to regroup, resuscitate, and to come again with a vibrancy so that Barbadians can live with a good quality of life. That's our goal here.
And in her contribution, Minister of State in Foreign Trade and Business, Sandra Husbands, addressed critics of government's level of borrowing.
I am not quite sure how they would have responded to all those houses being knocked over. Are you going to leave the people outside in the weather to suffer? What are you going to do when people didn't have food on the table? You weren't going to try and find some money to make sure that you could create some jobs and put some food on the table? What were you going to do when the health clinic system needed refurbishing and updating and we needed more nurses, etc.? What were you going to do? Sit down and let the people suffer and say, but at least we didn't borrow. Who is going to give you a medal for that?
Meanwhile, the House of Assembly has been updated on developments surrounding the investigations into the recent theft of several priceless artifacts, that is, from the Parliament Museum and the National Heroes Gallery. Speaker His Honour Arthur Holder says he has met with police to ascertain the stage of investigations. The jacket worn by the late Prime Minister, the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow, on November 30th back in 1966 was among the items taken.
I have been informed that the fingerprints results are back, and I expect soon that the police would give an update to the public on the stage that the investigations are, because the footage has shown a particular person that is known to the police. That is the report as it relates to the missing items from the Barbados Museum.
Well, coming up, 2 major retailers hit by cyber criminals. Cybersecurity continues to be an issue affecting even some major local companies. Unicomer Trading as Quartz and PriceSmart are 2 of the companies targeted by hackers in recent months. Managing Director of Quartz, Trisha Tanis, confirmed her company had a data breach 2 months ago. She said they contacted the clients who were affected.
A certain entity representing to be a cybersecurity expert has essentially been circulating information on an old breach that has already been previously communicated directly to the affected customers as well as the data commissioner in compliance with the data protection laws of Barbados. Because the entity is circulated, it is now coming across as if it is a new event. But it is actually an old event that has already been remedied. As we have advised our customers to months ago, over 2 months ago. It is a breach that occurred on a third-party platform.
The furniture and home appliance dealer has since closed the platform, which supported their old e-commerce website, and parted ways with the service provider. Ms. Tanis says they have also migrated to another platform and taken additional measures to protect client information. She says they apologized to all affected customers and will be pursuing the matter.
The individual customers who were impacted were already communicated with months ago. We can assure the public, though, that it is only those customers that have been impacted, and the situation is limited to the e-commerce platform and not any other customer information coming through brick and mortar. We will be looking and exploring all legal remedies available to us.
Efforts to get a comment from PriceSmart have so far been futile, but CBC has been in contact with one customer who received an email from the company last night about the breach. The customer, who did not wish to be named, believes it has been impacting him already, as a number of unsolicited SMS messages from companies he has never heard about have appeared on his phone. Now, given the promotional material he's been receiving, he's convinced his information is among that taken by the hackers. And joining us now for some further insight into cyber attacks is cybersecurity consultant Edward Millington. Good evening, Mr. Millington. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Now, Mr. Millington, I'm sure you're aware of these latest cyber attacks. So, first of all, as it relates to customers, what is the responsibility of companies that have had the breach?
Companies at a great level of extent need to understand how much the breach has affected them and the client itself or the customers themselves. And once they can determine that, they're notified based on the data protection law, the data commissioner, and also the customer, depending on how grave that risk is. Especially to the customer.
Do customers in this instance have any recourse against or in relation to those companies whose information was breached and now their information, the customer's information, is out there for all to access?
Well, I think it's more a legal aspect and something that they will need to take it up with their lawyer, because in any particular breach, that happens anywhere around the world, there's a level of reporting that will go on how adequate the business is or how good the business we call it cyber hygiene is. So if it's a situation that not due care and diligence is done with in protecting data, then there's also a necessary recourse from the client or the customer in this particular case.
Right. So are you seeing more breaches in recent times compared with years ago?
Yes, but I think the situation is that you cannot hide anymore. The situation has lent itself that either your system is down, based on a ransomware attack that might involve encrypting systems. But in situations where there's no encryption system, where an adversary can stay or a cyber attacker can stay in the system itself and not known, like I said, yes, but it's a very strange incident to say that there is more. I think there has always been more, but it's not always being reported or always visible.
To your knowledge, Mr. Millington, have people been paying to get back their information?
Some do, and we always recommend they don't. And in many situations, we have been trying to encourage companies, like what was said in the hosted anti-money laundering and cybercrime conference we had on last Friday, is to do your due diligence. It costs you hundreds times more to pay for a ransom, and there's no guarantee that you're going to get back your data or that data is going to be sold. Spend that money or the awareness right now to start boosting up, start enhancing, maturing your cybersecurity, which is way outside the IT security, but at the governance level.
Thank you very much. That is Edward Millington, a cybersecurity consultant, weighing in on this instance of companies and their computers and their systems being hacked and what they can do. Thank you very much, Mr. Millington.
Thank you. You too. Good night.
Well, fire officers have responded to an electrical incident at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. It occurred at around 2 on the lower ground floor of the facility and involved a sparking uninterrupted power supply, or UPS. Fire officials were able to contain the blaze by about 3 p.m. and damage assessments are underway. Now, hospital officials say power supply across the hospital plant continued uninterrupted, with the exception of the accounts department, which was impacted by the affected UPS. Now, power to that department has since been restored. Officials say the general operations of the hospital were uninterrupted, visiting hours remain as normal, and there was no impact to patient care. In news from the region, Guyana and Venezuela have both agreed to use the International Court of Justice jurisdiction in the case concerning the ownership of the Essequibo region. This clears the way for the case to be heard under the Geneva Convention. And joining us now to discuss what this signals is Neville Bisember, a former CARICOM diplomat and senior law lecturer at the University of Guyana. Good evening, Mr. Bisember.
Hi, good evening. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Now, so tell us what this development really means for Guyana and Venezuela.
Yeah, and before I go on, let me just say good evening to the viewers in Barbados, which is one of the places I call one of my homes. I've been done my LLB in Barbados years ago. Don't ask me how long though. So here's the thing. It approached the court with the assistance of the Secretary General under this the Geneva Agreement, not the Geneva Convention, Geneva Agreement that we signed since 1966, which allowed for the Secretary General to choose the means of settlement. The Secretary General chose the ICJ, and we approached the ICJ. Venezuela has been saying that it is not respectful of the decisions and the jurisdiction of the ICJ. Yet, just today, I watched on the internet the same Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, who has been saying that, led a delegation to The Hague to answer the questions that we have put because of this referendum they're having. So I don't understand how you can go to a court, attend the court, and then still say you don't respect the court. So we've moved to that stage of provisional measures now, asking the court to institute provisional measures to address the referendum, which is in 2-3 weeks' time. And then when they've done that, and we don't know the outcome of the case, we can't prejudge it, they'll come back and look at the substantive matter. Hopefully, I would say by the end of next year, or early 2025, when hopefully we will have a full and final settlement, and this gives full credibility and respect for international law and the peaceful settlement of disputes, which is in the United Nations Charter.
So you're expecting then, you mentioned as far down as 2025, do you think then that's the time frame we're working with for resolution of this impasse?
Look, the judges are busy people, but they're competent people, and some of them I know. What we've had to advance right now is what you asked for, something for provisional measures, because the matter is urgent. The referendum is in 3 weeks, and the criteria for provisional measures is that what you're asking for has to be urgent, it's in 3 weeks, and most importantly, what you're seeking to prevent has to be of the nature that if it goes forward, it will do irreparable damage, and it might be difficult to retrieve. So if, heaven forbid, Mr. Maduro takes whatever act or missions he does and sends people across the border, send his troops across the border, we have an influx of Venezuelans coming into the Essequibo, those things will be difficult to reverse. That's why we're asking for provisional measures on an urgent basis. When that is done, we go back to the substantive matter in the case. Venezuela has to come back with its final counter memorial sometime next year, and I'm saying we expect the judges to do a proper, clear job of examining all the issues, our side and their side. That's why I have my money, and I say end of 2024, early 2025. There are other matters before them right now. Huh? There's the matter with Ukraine. There are a lot of other matters going on, which everybody will say is important. So we, like everybody else, have to get in line. Of course, we want ours to have some priority, but let's not prejudge the outcome of the judges. Let's allow them to do their work. And in the meantime, we maintain the Caribbean as a zone of peace. Both parties are obliged to do that and have good neighborly relations in the interim.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so much for that clarification. That is Neville December, former CARICOM diplomat and senior law lecturer at the University of Guyana. Thank you once again, and we hope that you'll come back and keep us up to date on these developments.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
Sports Night, brought to you with the compliments of Great Health Works, agents for Omega XL.
Well, let's go now to the sports studio where Anne-Marie Burke is standing by live with the details. Good evening, Anne-Marie.
Good evening to you, Lisa. The Lodge School remain in first position of the Barbados Secondary Schools Football Under-19 League after drawing their top-of-the-table clash with Pine Hill St. Leonard's last evening at Messiah Street. Both teams are now on 14 points from 6 matches, but the Lodge have a superior goal difference, 17 to St. Leonard's 8. Here's a look at the encounter. Law School welcomed the boys from St. Leonard's to Messiah Street in the hopes of making home advantage work in their favor. And it was in the 30th minute of play that Seth Jones delivered a corner kick that found the right boot of a Johnny Ashby, and it was a done deal. I thought the keeper had it, but instead it rolled in, and Lodge was on the scorecards. And with the good support on the sidelines, they brought the celebrations there, all the way to halftime. But St. Leonard's will rain on their parade when the player is brought down and the penalty is awarded. The pressure is on Rivaldo Messiah as he settles and takes aim into the left pocket, and that was time to shut the shop. St. Leonard's and the Law School end in a locked score of 1-1.
The Business Report, brought to you by the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, a department of the Ministry of Youth and Community Empowerment, supporting young entrepreneurs from idea to enterprise.
In tonight's Yes Business Report, we're hearing that high energy performances are anticipated for this year's Spirit of the Nation show. Acting Promotions Officer for the Community Independence Secretariat, Curleen Allen, tells the Business Report this show, this time around, is a collaboration between the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, or YES, and the Community Independence Secretariat. Trevor Thorpe has been following those proceedings.
Curleen Allen, the acting promotions officer, said it is the culmination of months of preparation for the young entrepreneurs and parish ambassadors within communities, and Saturday night would be a pooling of resources for the Spirit of the Nation show this year. She said building self-esteem and building communities are at the core of the expression.
The YES program has been working at building youth and entrepreneurship. In our Independence Month, we, and I'm saying we as the Community Independence Celebration Secretariat, or CICS as it's more commonly known, we have been doing a number of initiatives with our parish independence committees, and more importantly with our parish ambassadors, who are now getting ready for the final part of their journey thus far in the program, and that's the Spirit of the Nation show, which comes off on Saturday, November 18th at the Garfield Sobers complex. The way in which that program is rolled out is not specifically a YES initiative, but we as ministry-wide are very much involved in whatever the ministry is doing, at whatever angle or level of the ministry that's taking place.
Some of the best local talent mixed with creative presentations are expected in the gymnasium, and the ministry official is urging Barbadians to support the show.
We tend to have quite a few young people in and out of the ministry offices and wherever else we are having workshops, doing some kind of development training, workshops, and whatever else is required of them. In our case, the parish ambassadors are the ones who are most active right now because they're getting ready for that show on Saturday night. The show starts at 6 o'clock, but they have been working into the late hours of the night with rehearsals. They're doing public speaking. They'll be doing a number of segments on which they will be judged. And the judging isn't just on the night. The judging took place prior to this. So the work that they did in the communities, for instance, their participation in community projects, their participation in the outreach programs, in the community service days, and also how they conducted themselves, their deportment, their tardiness, all those things things were registered and recorded so that the points can be tallied and added to what is happening on Saturday night when they produce whatever they're going to be presenting to the public. So we have quite a few young people, 22 young people who are going to be on stage. They will be doing the main segments for the judging. Then they will also be doing their formal wear and their costume.
Ms. Aline said the show is not only for the night, but has an overarching element for the future.
Our theme this year is our legacy, celebrating legacy. We are thinking of our past, our present, and our future. That's our theme for the year. And it's the theme right through for all of our activities in the month of Independence as well. So we look a bit at not just what's happening now, but we springboard from what has happened and gone before. And we're looking at what will be happening next in the future. So for a lot of the work of the Community Independence Celebration Secretariat at the community level through the PICs, the Parish Independence Committees, we work in partnership, and we look at the ways in which the community would like to grow.
Officials are saying yes, orientations have started for the new intake of students for 2024. Trevor Thorpe for the Yes Business Report.
Chief Executive Officer of the National Cultural Foundation, Carol Roberts-Reefer, has been highlighting the importance of culture to Barbados' economic development. She was speaking at the Intra-African Trade Fair.
In the last decade to 2 decades, we've decided that it's time to monetize, to commercialize, to exploit in the most positive way possible as many aspects of our culture as we can, whether it be in film, or fashion, or food, or festivals. And so here we are today to just give you a snapshot, a soupçon of what is available and ready for collaboration and partnership in Barbados.
And Anne-Marie is back now with this second half in sports. Over to you, Anne-Marie.
Thanks, Lisa. I promised news of volleyball. Barbados Community College Eagles defeated St. George Secondary in straight sets when the school's senior volleyball round-robin segment came to an end. The result moves BCC into this week's quarterfinals, which begin tomorrow. CBC's Anne-Mar Goodrich Boyce reports.
St. George Secondary in white and green to the left of your screen. A perfect set from Sanaya Morris, and the spike from Isaiah Francis is like shot out of a cannon. Points on the board for St. George. The BCC Eagles, however, did not allow their visiting opponents to establish a major advantage. This is good ball control before Morris sets up Francis again, but somehow there's an answer from the Eagles before the spike from Jonathan Mears was simply too hot to handle. After starting well, things fell apart for St. George, and Francis attempts a bump pass, but there's miscommunication between Morris and LeBron Montra, and BCC collect an easy point. It went from bad to worse for the competitors from Content. Nice serve from Joshua King allowed Morris to show her speed, as she did well to keep the ball in play. But the Eagles swooped down for the clever dink. That's Mears again. St. George on serve again. This is a good rally from both sides, but it comes to an end as Mears opts for a cheeky dink and Morris finds the net. BCC continued their dominance and deservedly took the first set, 25-6. Excellent play from the host resulted in a powerful kick from Mears. He's on fire, folks. Second set action, and BCC picked up where they left off. Look at this play from Justin Allen. Picks his spot and spikes with thunder. However, this set told a different story than the first, as St. George started to put up more of a fight. Morris set for Ranio Joseph, and that's brilliant. St. George continued to battle their way back into the game, both sides putting together some nice passes before Giovanni Edwards miscued his spike, much to the delight of his opponents. As time started to tick away, with the scores close and St. George threatening to force a third and deciding set, this rally was one of the most entertaining ones, as neither side looked prepared to surrender the point, but in the end, the Eagles hit long. Despite a valiant effort from St. George, the Eagles soared to victory by a narrow second set victory, 25-20, winning the match 2-0. Anmore Goodrich Boyce, CBC Sports.
And that's our news for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Good night.